When we talk about FPV, usually the first thing that comes to mind is something like this. A 5-inch quadcopter, carbon fiber frame, action camera on the front, battery strapped to it, and all sorts of components inside that you, the user, have the option to choose yourself. However, DJI just came up with their own version of an FPV drone, and unlike this one, where you have all the freedom to choose your own components and fit whatever you feel like, their product combines all these components into one shell where you don't have access to modifying and customizing these components, but they give you a polished version of something that you can go to the store, buy, set up for 30 minutes and start flying straight away. Normally, the entry level for FPV is very high. But with this product, almost anyone can get into FPV, for better or for worse, and start flying straight away. So in today's video, we'll talk about this new DJI FPV drone, whether you should buy it, whether it's a good purchase, and what you can expect from it. I'm going to divide this video into a couple of different chapters, so feel free to skip to whichever chapter interests you the most so you can form your opinion whether you should buy this drone or not. Keep in mind though, my drone arrives in a couple of days, so if you're interested in this topic and want to see what I can do with it as soon as I have it, make sure you're subscribed to my channel and hit the bell so you're notified every time I post a new video and you'll be the first one to see it. Right, so starting off with the camera. So unlike a traditional FPV drone where you really rely on the action camera you choose, whether it's the GoPro Hero 7, 8 or 9 or an Insta360 or any other action camera that you choose to capture your shots, here you have an integrated 4K 60 frames per second 120 megabits stabilized camera right on board of the DJI FPV drone, which means that you don't have to go ahead and buy a separate camera that you can strap on the drone itself. It comes with the camera pre-installed, it's ready to fly, it's ready to record, and it will do it in 4K 60. It uses the same technology as the DJI Osmo Action, so rock steady stabilization, which has proven to be very good for most of the things you throw at it, and I've yet to try it out, of course, so I will not give my exact opinion on this camera as of yet. However, from what I've seen, the quality looks very good. The stabilization looks okay. I'm not sure if it's better than Real Steady, for example, which is the software that is used for stabilizing GoPro footage. But from what I've seen so far, the camera, the onboard quality of the camera, 4K 60, seems very good. And DJI has definitely thought a lot about this camera so they can make it a real competitor of GoPro footage and all sorts of other action cameras. So for that department, I actually enjoy the fact that you don't need a separate camera. You can use the one that is built in on the drone itself. In order to control the drone, you will need two things: the DJI remote controller and the DJI FPV goggles. Unfortunately, you can only use the V2 goggles that have been announced recently. You cannot use the original FPV goggles, which is a huge bummer, but because of the frequencies the drone uses, you'll have to switch to V2 and you have to buy the new ones. DJI promises up to 10 kilometers of range in FC networks and up to 6 kilometers in CE networks, which is quite a lot, and I'm interested to see how that plays out because I haven't been able to reach those distances with my normal FPV quadcopters, but here we're talking about better transmission, maybe better connection between the radio and the goggles. The antennas are different, so we'll see about that, but up to 6 kilometers in Europe, which is where I live, is quite impressive if it happens to be true. Speaking about impressive things, normally on an FPV drone like this, you fly with one battery for about 3 to 5 minutes, maximum 7-8 minutes, depending on how you fly, whether you have a camera or not. Here, the flight time is up to 20 minutes. Now, keyword is up to 20. Of course, depending on how you fly, that might change very drastically. It might be 10 minutes, it might be 15, you might be able to squeeze 20, but it really depends on how you fly and what moves you do. So already we have a couple of things that are a huge positive over regular FPV, so keep that in mind, and maybe it's important for you, maybe it's not, but we have to note it. Another thing which I actually enjoy is the fact that this drone initially starts flying like the usual Mavic. So it has GPS, it has sensors on the front and on the bottom, so the takeoff or landing happens just like on any other Phantom or Mavic drone. It takes off vertically. The drone uses these sensors so it can navigate through obstacles and not hit them, so you don't crash straight away. Usually when you start flying the drone, it will fly like a Mavic. It will fly like a GPS drone. It will have a return to home. It will have smart features enabled and even photo mode. However, when you hit a switch or activate that feature through the goggles, it will start flying like a drone. Like you will be able to roll and pitch, but you will be limited in the maneuvers you can do. If you decide that you want complete freedom, just like acro mode on regular FPV drone, you will be able to deactivate all the security features and you will have full manual controls, so you can do flips and rolls and all sorts of different tricks with this drone. But keep in mind, it's about 800 grams, so you cannot expect too much maneuverability from it. However, it will still be possible to do it. So depending on your skill level, you will be able to readjust and learn with the drone as you go. While flying the drone, if for any reason you feel like something is not right, you can hit a panic button, which will re-enable GPS and it will reset the drone in a way so it starts hovering in the air, and it will just act as a GPS drone once again, just like a Mavic, and it will stop in the air so it doesn't crash. I like the fact that DJI has come up with a couple of different ideas how to minimize the crashing. Of course, it won't be minimized, but it will help lower the amount of crashing because of that panic button, which you'll be able to press and the drone will hold and wait for your next command. So this is something that doesn't happen on drones like this. There is no panic button here. If you panic and you lose control, you will just crash. So it's a nice thing to see that they're trying to incorporate something positive to avoid more crashing. But speaking about crashing, we need to talk about how durable this drone really is. Carbon fiber frame on regular FPV means that it can withstand a lot of hitting, a lot of crashing, and because of all these components are easy to access, you can easily replace one of these components if it gets damaged. This is not exactly the case for the DJI FPV drone. It will be a lot harder to self-repair it, so of course the repair costs will also be higher compared to regular FPV, as well as the initial cost that you will pay for this drone, but we'll get to the price in a second. Because of the fact that you don't have to pick your own components and you don't have to worry about charging, for example, because the batteries charge just like on any other Mavic, and for example on any other FPV drone, you have to keep an eye on your batteries. The LiPo batteries are very, very dangerous to charge, so you have to keep an eye on them while they charge. Here, you don't have to do that. They are a lot safer to charge, and I'm sure many people who are scared of LiPo batteries and starting a fire and at their home and picking the components and learning a lot about different things and what they do, I'm sure these people will appreciate the fact that this drone is pre-built and ready to fly, and it comes ready straight out of the box with everything you need. And because of that, you don't have to learn how to solder, for example. You don't have to learn how to tune your quadcopter. You don't have to learn how to build it yourself, which for some people is a great thing to learn, but others, I'm sure, don't want to deal with any of that. So you're just buying a polished product which works straight out of the box, and I'm sure many people will appreciate that and will be looking for a product like this. So yeah, think about whether that looks like something that fits your needs or not. The price of the DJI FPV combo is about $1,300 US, which is quite a lot, but when you think about what you're getting for the money, if you're just starting out with FPV, it's actually a relatively okay price. Because I've spent a lot more on FPV up until this point. When you start thinking about the action camera you're going to use, the frame, the motors, the ESC, the flight controller, everything starts piling up. So when you combine all that money the $1,300 is actually not too bad for everything you get. And finally, I've created a little table of pros and cons about the DJI FPV drone, which will hopefully help you make the decision whether it's worth investing into it or not. So starting off with the pros, the first one we have is ease of use. We have a panic button, which will hopefully help you avoid crashing. When you press it, the drone will stop flying and will start hovering in air, waiting for your next command, and you can avoid hitting something in your way. You have GPS, which will enable smart return to home, low battery return to home. You have obstacle avoidance sensors on the front to avoid hitting anything on the front while you're using GPS, and you have downward facing obstacle avoidance sensors when you take off and land. The next pro is the camera. You have a built-in 4K 60 frames per second camera with stabilization, so you don't have to invest into a GoPro or any other action camera. All the work has been done inside the camera, so you don't have to spend more time stabilizing the footage afterwards, unlike most of the footage I take on my GoPro. You have up to 20 minutes of flight time, and even if we lower that to 15, it's still quite significantly more than what you get on a regular FPV drone. And finally, you don't have to learn how to build your drone, you don't have to solder, everything just works straight out of the box. Now, as for the negatives, we have to mention that it has a high initial cost. $1,300 at once is not a small amount of money that you have to pay, and you really don't have a choice on what components to use. You don't have a choice for cheaper goggles or for a different remote controller, for example. You have to use the DJI goggles version 2 and their own DJI FPV remote controller as well. Some people say that this drone is not real FPV because it flies like a GPS drone and you can flip the switch for FPV, and although it can still do full acro movements, because of that super high weight of about 800 grams, you cannot expect a very high speed and very high maneuverability from it. So we can say it's not real FPV, but it's up there. The next con is higher repair costs. Unlike regular FPV drones, you cannot repair this drone by yourself quite as easily as you can do it on a regular FPV. You will have to pay a little bit more to repair, and because of how this product looks like, it will not withstand such big crashes as normal carbon fiber frames. And finally, one of the biggest cons is geofencing. This drone uses geofencing just like any other DJI drone, so you will have to comply with the local rules and regulations about places to fly, no-fly zones, etc., just like on any other drone that you have flown from DJI before. So this is pretty much it. What do you think about the DJI FPV drone? Do you think it's worth getting into? Do you think it's worth buying for yourself, for your exact needs? I would love to hear back from you, so please let me know in the comment section below. And of course, to answer your question before you even asked, I will be getting one, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video. I am waiting for the delivery of mine, arriving in a couple of days, and as soon as it comes, I will start making a lot of videos about it. So if you want to be the first to see those videos, of course, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, turn on your notifications, and stay tuned because a lot is coming from me. With that being said though, thank you so much for watching today's video. This is Mike from Drone Supremacy. Stay tuned for my next video, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.